you believe it or not, it's been around since 1737. Some bugger started. It wasn't Morse, and it's been done by all sorts of people, and it came about because they needed communication. They were developing stuff in communication-wise, telegraph stuff, and they had communication done by post, Pony Express, and all sorts of things. And there was Cobb and Co coaches, but the horses can't go any further than 10 miles at a time because they just go poof and expire. So they decided we'll have a relay station every 10 miles. And along came the telegraph, so they could talk between stations. Now this is how the telegraph was first used, mainly in the States. It was back home in England before they got married to the States and everything else like that. But in the meantime, they had little tiny things, if I can find it. What did I do with it? I left it in the other case. And the keys they used, quite nifty. What called that? And one of those little tiny things, and that's about 100 years old, maybe a bit more. And they used that, and they only had to travel 10 miles for the signal. No worries, we can do that. So it was quite thing. And they sent messages between stations and between the relay, all the way down to the other end of the continent. Magic stuff. Then, in the 1800s, Marconi moved in. Oh, radio comes in, and things changed. We got now worldwide communications rather than intercontinental communication. Wireless. And what did we do? We had spark transmitters. What a terrible device they were. Continuous wave is where it all came from. And it was what they did was they developed transmitters. And what horrible things they were. And they stick a voltage into a pot with capacitors and stuff. And they would get thousands of volts coming out the other side, and they were called spark transmitters. There was no tuning. You stuck up half a mile of wire, 400 feet in the air, and the bloke on the other side of the world had the same thing. And that was the only reason they were able to communicate, because they were resonant effectively at whatever frequency they'd poked up at. When it was down in the KCs, tens of KCs, not megacycles like we use today. And they used to use keys like this. This one is a bit later. This is out of the 40s, but this is a D-type key. And if you have a look at that, it's not a very giant-sized key, but have a look at the contacts. About 6 millimeters square and about 5 millimeters thick, solid silver. And they did that because there was thousands of volts up there, and they enclosed them. So the poor operator didn't get a hands blown off. That's basically what it was all about. It was pretty hairy stuff in those days. So we got now the difference between the two. They had this is a key. It's probably, funnily enough, it's rare because it's got an intact cover. It's got a crack in it. It's fragile, but it's rare to get one without that. I got that key from a fellow by the name of ZL3AV when he passed away, and it was full of cigarette ash because he smoked like a chimney. I must have got a cup and a half of cigarette ash out of it, and it was still going. He was using it the day he died, and I took it to pieces, and it took me weeks and weeks and weeks. And that, believe it or not, has got a lovely patina on it now, but when I took it to pieces, it was green. And I cleaned and polished and sorted, and there it is. So, and it's a bugger of a key for me because it's so noisy. When the lid's on it, it's even noisier. I like a quiet key. So it interferes. Well, this one here, that's talking of keys, this is my key that I started off with. $5 out of a little tiny shop somewhere with electronic stuff in it. Something like Dick Smith's, but even worse. And beautiful and quiet. I like that. I'll tell you about that key later. That's comes into it. And that was my first key. And I got into radio, and thank goodness there was no spark transmitters there was valves and stuff like that. And we had a couple of 100 volts running around the thing because it was block keying and all that sort of stuff. So you kept your fingers off the hard bits and you were okay. But now, today, we use solid state keying. We use silly things like this, and we use tiny keys. These keys will handle tiny voltages and tiny currents, no problem. Yeah. You certainly wouldn't handle 2,000 or 3,000 volts. I would like to drive one at that sort of voltage. So we've now gone back into modern radio. We've got it developed. We've worked right through the 1800s. Marconi's been gone, done his damage, and a lot of other people did too. And they left a tremendous plethora of keys, wonderful keys, and some of them I've got. I'm not going to show you two more. I've got this is the modern key. This one here is what they call a vibro key. It's made by vibro effects, and it doesn't do anything automatic.
Tony, show him.
Struggling to see anything.
Who is? Oh,
All
Sue
those
is there.
people you got your back to.
So, how can I do this? You've got a camera on the other side. Where's the expert?
Oh, we could this side here.
Anyway, we have this one. There's a vibro here. It doesn't do anything fancy.
Can somebody bring it up on the phone and just stand it there? So
Yes, did somebody do something with that? I don't know. And what we can do with that is we can send iambic code, which is done the same as you would with this little key here. It's about as slow as it'll go, I think. It's I couldn't find my big key. No, that's about 12 words a minute, believe it or not. And code is learnt in different ways. There's a couple of ways that I like. The best one, I think, is the Farnsworth method, where your code is sent at the target speed. My target speed is around 15 words a minute. And the sending, by increasing the spaces between the words, is taking us now down to where you can copy it. Learn at 5 words a minute, and every time you go up a step, what you'll do is you'll find you'll have a plateau, and you'll stop, get bogged down. But if I send you code, you will hate my guts. Because
more.
I will drive you like you've never been driven before. And there's quite a variety of keys that I've got here. And there's about 5 grams worth of keys in this box. Some on my collection of pieces. These keys here are both about 100 years old. They are post office keys, typical British stuff. That one there's a real fair dinkum job with the round end. That's an early one. That's probably more than 100 years old. And they are quite nice keys to use. They're what they call pump keys or strap keys. Pump keys I like. More control over them. And they come in a variety of sizes as well. Now this one here is a PS2 replica. Reputedly one of the finest keys ever built, and I love it. You can get one of those for about 250 bucks, if you can. But they're a beautiful key. That's a replica. It's not a Deacon PS2, which I haven't got. I've even got a bathtub key and a Lancaster bomber. Strange little device. Not of a key to drive.
how do you get a Lancaster bomber into a bathtub?
Quite easily. They did lots of magic things in the wall. And there's a key here I like. That one. That one's not bad at all. And there are other silly little things I've got in here as well. You've never seen before, and you probably won't see again. You can tell See here. Too many ropes, too many wires. You've got
Henry.
these little boxes here, and they are made so you can make your own keys. You can buy your own keys. You can get keys on the net. You can buy a lot of this sort of stuff. You can buy them actually in back boxes of 10, I think, for about $50. And there's a key like that. That's a set of paddles. And that's very, very simple. It's almost identical to function, almost identical as to that one there, which is the vibraflex. They're about, I think, $22 to buy on the net. Not nice to drive. This one's even worse. Honestly, it's a terrible key. It yeah.
Oh, that's automatic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is. Yeah. It doesn't. It's because it's body. It's certainly. See, it's not. It's not. It's bad contact.
Mm.
Hang on a second. That shouldn't be doing that. Ah. So you can send with it. Nice portable thing. You have to watch. There's no adjustment for the up and down, and the up and down movement is a very important thing for when you're driving a key. You can get a hand key like this. You can probably get one of those if you're lucky today, maybe 50, 60 bucks on the net. I've got, that's quite a nice soft key to drive. It's quiet, and I like a quiet key. The bigger the key is, the noisier it gets. And I will show you one over here, which is even worse. Oh, did I bring it? Is it easier than that? They always came up with the rest of the key to get that on a soft plate, but fix it nice. That's a key. That's probably a couple $100 these days, but very noisy because it's like a sounding board.
Oh, it's not a solid board.
No, it's hollow.
No,
The
okay.
only way to fix that static bottom off, you mix up some birdshot and some PVA glue and go fill it up with that. Now, also stop from sliding.
Quiet it down.
Eh?
Is that quiet it down?
It does, yeah. It fills the gap up.
Probably be better if it wasn't on the feet too.
Oh no, I like them on the feet. Yeah. Stable. Three.
Sorry.
There's over $500 in that key alone. And that's what they call a pump key. That's a fair dinkum Swedish pump key on the screws inside.
This is a kissing contest for keys.
They're
Keys
incredible,
one.
incredible keys. Funny thing about keys, I've always had a fancy for them. My old man came out of the
John, can
war.
you mute your microphone, John?
Oh, John.
My old man came out of the war, and I don't know, he knew an awful lot of people. And the first thing I remember after he came out was visiting a submarine. And I always wanted to be a submariner. Not only that, I wanted to be a radio operator. And I thought, well, what am I going to do
John
with
to
this?
turn his mic
And we were not a rich family, a very poor family. My mother used to wash clothes and hang on the line to dry, so she couldn't get any more, couldn't spend any money. She was tight like you wouldn't believe. And consequently, I never had anything to do. I can never do any of this sort of stuff. This is, and in the 50s, we came to Australia, and my old man said to me, "You will go down to the harbour, Fremantle, and the Queen's yacht was in here, the Britannia was in." He said, "You will go aboard the Britannia, you will talk to such and such a bloke," and he said, "He'll give you a tour of the ship." I'm 11 years old. And I get up, I went from stem to stern on that ship. I went into the radio room, and on the table was a Marconi 635 key. And I thought, oh, typical boy, what am I going to do with this? Clonk, clonk. And of course, in those days, ships used to run their radios in port. They had to, part of the emergency stuff. So they're all sitting on the top of two big. One of the rarest keys in the world. I had one built today, it will cost about $2,000.
Why isn't it here?
And it's never.
They didn't have that. When he was 11, they didn't have backpacks.
And that 365. It's a beautiful key, absolutely magnificently. I'm going to go through every one of these keys, and I will send with them each one a different one every night. That's the plan anyway. Anyway, in the meantime, we've got keys. We can manual keys. I've got keys coming out of my eyeballs here. I can get it landed here for about $500. And I was coming as a shit-out strap. And I got these at the right price because I've been looking around. And there's another one. I bought that just recently, actually. And that's a lovely key. That's a. You can't hear it. It's beautiful to drive. And so I've got that. And there's the other one down here. That one I'll demonstrate that one shortly. Let's do the other one, put it down there. Got three. So between those three keys, 1, 2, 3, there's about $1,000. And then there's this one here, which is an old one, 1937. It's a Champion. One of the simpler keys.
You've got enough keys there to give us one each for attendance.
I've got, I think, 84 keys. 84 keys.
Yeah.
And I had to sweat blood to get a couple of them. But I don't like this. This is what they call a bug. And it does automatic dips. It's not adjusted. It's been in the box for God knows how long. And it's one of the cheaper keys that Vibraflex ever made. It had a flat bar rather than round. I rather like this one. It hasn't got all the extra junk down the bottom. It's quite simple compared to it. And the thing I don't like about it is you've got to hit the dip side so hard that you need a space to swing. If you don't swing, yeah. So now if you cut that gap right down to get the speed, you haven't got enough power to make it swing. And so they're a bit of a trade-off. There's a limit to what you can do with it. So if you want to drive them fast, that's not the one you want. But they'll probably do 20 words a minute. But you wouldn't do what you wouldn't go changing it around. It's sort of a set speed, whereas something like this one here, I can crank that up. There's the right one. Oops. I forget that will go down as low as 12 words a minute. No, that's quite good. Now, if you want to be 5 words a minute, you're in big trouble because There's a straight key with the right plug on it. There's one there. Maybe I can do it this one. This other key here, if I can do it right, will take me down. I'll demonstrate because this is important. Now I'm going to press this button here. I've got to remember how to do all this. Hand key, random code. This will send me random code.
You can flash all over it.
Yeah, it's right.
I like that one.
Right through, mate.
That's that USB you go, isn't it?
You stop stammering when you're sending the Morse code.
What I wanted to do was show you here, if I go to here, now hand key. Now I can drive this with a hand key. It's the wrong way around.
You get upside down.
That was on
Yeah, well, I do. If I,
Hold up the other way.
this one in particular here, this key here, my big key, I've got a big one that's about 3 times the size. Can't find it, it disappeared on me. And it really bugged me because it's got a better sound. This one here, now when I want to drive it the other way, I drive it with my left hand. So I can drive it with my left hand here and I can send something else, I can send it. I can write now while I'm standing and all sorts of things.
Nobody can do that.
Yes, I can. The colleague that taught me, he said to me, oh, he said, I was staying with him. He said to me, come in the shack. He said, and you can have a listen in on the morning skit. He had a skit with about 20 people. And I said, oh, good on you, mate. I'll do that. So I go there, he's sitting down there and he's got a pen in each hand and he's listening in the thing and he drops the pen, hits the mic button, goes back to all the people, gets back to there and he's writing away. I said, Phil, I said, what are you doing? He said, I said, you're writing now? He said, that's, he said, I don't write. So he said, well, he said, that's me bird notes. And he said, that's me bloody astronomy notes. And I said, Phil, how do you do that? He says, it's just practice. So there, you can do anything you like. But he was an incredible man. He taught me a lot of stuff. I still carry it. I still use what he says. Now, we've got different methods of operating keys. That is Supreme Key from New Zealand, built by a fellow by the name of Eric Sorensen. He's now, unfortunately, a silent key. And this one here is what they call a Navy key, Yankee key. And this is how the Yanks operate. They sit down, they rest their arms on the table, and they go, oh, no, don't do that. Whatever you do, use the key spacing, the tension in your arm, your wrist, and your hand to give you rhythm and form, and it will give you the right spacing. Now, if I can find a key, I can plug in here, a straight key. Have I got a straight key with a thing on it? There's one there. I'm not going to jump. Get me up. It's a bit of a shocky head on it, but that's all right. Now we go over here. I better put it on the table and do it right. Put that into this one here. I think, oh no, I can do a straight key on this one, can't I? Oh yeah. That's interesting.
I said, what an egg one.
Alpha, alpha.
Hand key, hand key. Hand key. it, Hanky? Oh, come on. Come on. Key with a key. What's this one got on it? Yeah, it's all right. That should be all right. Well, we'll try this one. Reset this now. Look at the difference. That's in the height. Similar sort of knob, but look at the difference. How you go up here. You use your wrist gap. Gap's important. So you go down here, you go da. Use that wrist movement to give you the shape of that. So you can, and then when you want to learn the code, and get to something like this, get onto the neck. Oops. Okay, so now. So you do that. Use that. Use something off the net, off the computer. You can get it. Yeah, you got the idea. Listen to something that's coming. Don't copy junk CW. Not good for you. You'll never learn. Copy book CW. Transmit at one end. And duplicate it. Lock that sound into your mind so that when you hear it, you can translate it straight back to there.
So language.
So what are you saying, Tony, that you should be sending as at the same time as you're learning?
No. What I'm saying is that you should firstly learn the code. You need to know. You need to learn the code so that you can send it. Your brain is a very magic piece of work. You listen to the sound and say to it, duplicate that sound. So you've got something to make a sound and something that makes a sound for you. If you want to duplicate that sound, you wait till it sends, you wait till it sends.
So,
It's going.
No,
Bye, Sue. Thank you.
Hi, Sue.
you're not saying.
Good night, Sue.
If you listen to that sound,
Bye.
Thanks.
and that's what you do, you use it to point you in the direction to make the same sound. And it sounds, it's not hard, not hard. So what you need is a key, a straight key, a key that you're comfortable with. Then you can buy one of these things and you can use one finger, but it's a pain in the bum. Use your natural arm.
And what about for portable operations?
But you showed you one of those.
Yeah. I'm asking your advice. I mean, you can have very, very small.
Yeah, you can.
That's my whole rig. That's everything.
Yeah, well,
That's
you can, if
so what
you-
can you get? Yeah,
if you do it right, there are people that will put a piece of a ring on the thing, and they all do that.
You're not going to be able to send. You can sign up, but there's different muscles, there's different learning. Yeah, I know you can do that. And the 817 does it on the microphone. I know.
Put that in the right place.
We've all done that, but what I'm getting at, Tony, is
You can do it.
I know you can do it, but I'm asking your advice as to what's, because you know the aim is that we're all going to get on CW. A lot of us are going out in the field.
There's just a couple of things you can do. You can get something like this. Now that's a beautiful little key to drive. Okay, so it's a bit bulky. If you're going to have a key like that, you're going to have to hold it down whether you like it or not. Without this one's okay because up and down there, there's no software to it.
I see on a lot of the portable rigs online,
There are, yes, the Aces do have
the
a
Helicrafts and the Aces, there's things that bolt on the
bolt on the
side,
side, yes, you can get one of those.
little paddles.
Yeah,
So using
they're
the
not all that
radio.
expensive, they're not all that expensive. You can get a key like this, and as I say, you can hold it down and you can drive it without too much fuss. You can get something like this, which takes a little bit more driving because of the construction of it. It's one of those TechTalk switches with a long tip sticking out there, and then a flexible stuff on the top.
Paddle or key.
You can do. Now, I don't recommend you use a paddle until you learn the code. Because what you've done, you've learned the code properly, you've learned the sound, it's up here, and it's transferable to your fingers. Once you've done that, you can do what you like. When I send both hands, I send both, and there's other modes of sending too. You can make a pedal. This one here, for argument's sake, is it that one? No, it's that one. That one there. That one there. Is configured to run like a key. That's probably what got me. I found that it's been idle for so long. That's the one. Now this is set up as a Cootie key. Now I've never driven a Cootie key, and that's one contact, and you drive it both for dits and dars. So you go. Gap. I found that I had corrosion on the springs, and the only contact that you got between the sides is via the spring. And I noticed the springs were corroded, and of course what I've got here effectively is I've never driven one before, but it's so you go rather than dard it, you go, which takes a bit of getting used to. And
Fingers got to dance.
Right?
Your fingers are going to dance.
Yeah, you have. So I now take I shifted the gaps around a bit to give me a bit of. Gives you timing. It gives you space. It gives you that space you need between the dits and the dars. It's the contact's not good, but that's what they call a Cootie key. So you can, and they make them out of knives. They stick a knife up, stick in the block of wood, and they put a contact either side, and they drive it. It takes a bit of getting used to. Very, very simple. You can make them out of nothing. But ultimately, you still need a straight key so that you can learn the code properly. And then you can say, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to do a straight key? Do you want to do iambic? Do you want to do a Kia? Personally, I like a Kia. It's easy to use.
Yeah, see, I don't understand what's going on here. That puts in the dits and the dars without you actually physically doing them yourself, right?
Yeah, it's Kia. It's electronic key.
Well, see, I don't understand the
Well,
difference.
most of them built into radios these days.
So these guys here, these old type keys, you couldn't do all that yourself, you did some yours, right?
Yeah.
Those other panel ones, they do part of the job themselves, is that right?
Yeah, this is
Generates the dance.
So, okay, so how do you get around that? I mean,
You push it one way and you get dits, you push it the other way, you get
it.
dark.
What happens is.
so doesn't that make the job a lot harder?
It's,
No,
it's
it's
a different technique.
Yeah, I understand that, but doesn't that make the job a lot harder
Now, what it
than
does.
using one of these keys?
Go a lot
No.
faster.
What it does, it self-completes the dits, it self-completes the dars. It's run on a time base, which is a 50-50 marks base ratio. So you've got a dit is that long.
Mm.
Space is the same length. 3 dits and you got a dar.
Okay, but that's to me.
Yeah, okay, it's the structure of the code. Now, for you to do that with a straight key, I can do, and they're all different sizes.
Hmm.
With this,
It's controlled.
Yeah, I see what you're saying before about having to learn the
and
code.
what it does, it self-completes. It also puts spaces in the right place.
Yeah, I know.
And what you have to do is, your brain is telling me, or my brain is telling me, that's what I've got to leave
Yeah, but
between
you're not actually-
characters,
you're
not
not-
between words.
But you're not tapping out more, say it.
No, I'm with Morris here, but I think we come from a common background, way back in the service degrees, the 12 course,
Yep.
flashing light or whatever. And in my brain, there's a sound of a clack clack machine,
Yeah,
and it's the sound, and you get used to it. And because what you're asking is that these old kids, we know it.
That's right, that's right.
But these paddles.
There's an extra, I reckon there's an extra process, mental process involved, obviously, with the pedals that you've got to know about.
oh,
That
well,
whether you get
what
it
it
used to it.
does, what it does, it helps you to send copybook Morse.
It's like cheating, but it's not cheating. I just
That's what you
Yeah, I think
Count out the beats and all that sort of stuff.
I
can do it. I've got a paddle and the radio will do it for me, but you've got to manage to count the dots and the dashes.
Yeah, no, see, I wouldn't be interested in doing that.
Manually.
Well, you don't have to use it.
No, I'd be wanting to use those guys there, the old style.
Yeah,
That's all I've ever done.
yeah, well, that's all right, you can, yeah, but you have to think about, how long you're gonna do it. I mean, I was running, more sessions 2 hours at a time. And I run a straight key for 2 hours at a time without making a mistake, takes a bit of doing. Makes it easier to do that.
Once you know how.
Yeah,
But once your brain's locked into the code. This is what you were saying
Yeah,
before. You've got to
exactly.
learn the code first before you move on to the pedals.
exactly, yeah.
You have to learn to receive it. The
Yeah.
second time I ever operated a key was in the exam.
Well, that little key there, I don't know how many QSOs I've had with that key. That was the first key I came on the air with. And the first station I worked was ZL 2AGS, Greta Gottlieb. She was a gun CW operator. And I went in there and I heard it, so I was thinking, I got me call. She wasn't there. And I thought, what's going on? She was away on holiday, 3 weeks. I went without a contact. And I've got this Morse key or this certificate burning a hole in my table. And I thought, I'm not going to, anybody else, it's got to be Greta, it's got to be my first contact. Anyway, she always used CW. So she had a 101E and had a peculiar sound from the side tone oscillator. And I thought, that's Greta. I heard a couple of dits and I thought, oh, there she is. I went straight back to bang. Well, I sweated blood with that girl for about 3/4 of an hour. And I couldn't for the life of me think of slow down QRS. Please QRS. Will you please slow down? I'm having trouble. I was copying probably about 90% of what she was sending. And I thought, oh, Jesus. And then I said to her afterwards, I said, we go phone. She said, we go phone. I said, can you tell me what speed were you doing when I went back? She said 25 words a minute. I said, what speed did you slow down? She said 16 words a minute. That was my first bloody contract, I can tell you.
Do you want to one?
No, it was a hell of an experience, you know. And I thought, wow.
So Tony, when you start doing the slow practice, you're going to be sending it 15. But with
Yeah, what I'll do is
spacing in between.
I will send you. There's a machine here that sends it so slow, and you think about what's going on here. Not that one. It's not
But isn't it the speed? Don't you control the speed yourself?
Yes. But when you've got an automatic machine like this, I don't know whether this will go down to. Yeah, right, I don't know if it's unplugged it. We go down to here, random code. So that's as slow as that'll go.
It's common practice to hook the key into something like that, which actually gives you the right format.
It's
So in other words, what you're saying, you can tap away at your own speed and process, but that little box there will straighten it all out for you at the right speed. Is that what you're saying?
well, no. What that little box there will do, that will help you control
That one.
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
That will send random code if you wanted to. It'll do a lot of other things on there besides. It's I picked it up the next, and I think the same with that one there. That was an El Cheapo thing. I'm very conservative with what I spend, I can tell you, because I don't have anything anymore. But I got one here, and 5 words a minute is what they recommend you start with. That's the Aussies. They've got to be rocks on their heads, because I've trained so many people and run into so many plateaus because of that 5 words a minute. It's not funny. So you don't do 5 words a minute anymore. And you can do the code speed, which is, that's about as slow as this one goes at 12 words a minute. I built it that way, so it wouldn't go any slower than 12 words a minute. So now, time.
I can understand.
I leave the spaces. So what I do is I'll send you code, and it's easy. I can't. Where the hell? It's got to be something here. Where's it?
Morris, yeah, you set the speed that you want, so I set on 13, but then the space between the characters you can set, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds if you want. So you're learning at 13 words a minute.
Yeah.
There's an extra
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but is that you actually listening to the spaces, or you actually? What if you hit a space longer than you should?
that won't matter too much. Have a listen to this. This is 12 words a minute.
Yeah, but see, the whole thing is that thing's doing your speed for you. You're not actually doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's all right. You can do that speed you want to.
Yeah, but that's not my point.
I think I understand you.
I'm going back to the old school where you used those tapping key things there.
Tapping things there.
You know, I mean, I know nothing about Morse, but
Yeah, but hang on a second. That there. Right. Now, if I go to here, I go. They're about the same speed, but 5 words a minute is.
Oh, yeah, it's painful.
You'll learn at that speed, or you'll learn the speed. That's a character. But there's enough space between the dits and the dars to be character spaces. So you've got to now readjust your brain to squeeze all them down and get stuff like that.
yeah, I know the recommendation is about 15 words a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that.
So you send code at that speed, spaces between. Your brain says, "Oh, gotcha." And then you think to yourself, "Geez, what am I waiting for the next one for?" Once you start to do that, you can then increase the speed. And then
Increase the gaps.
the gaps.
Reduce the
Okay,
gaps,
so
not the
okay.
speed.
The code speed remains the same, but the spacing is shortened up to the point where it becomes 7 dits between words, 3 dits between letters.
All right.
Best way.
And if you learn at 5 words a minute, it's so bloody boring. Jeez, it's terrible. And you get plateaus. You'll get stuck with it. You can't get past it.
Was that the old standard though? For to get your license originally was it 5? Was it
14.
14? Was the
No,
standard?
the novice was 5.
It was 5.
Full call was 10.
I thought it was 5.
Everywhere else
And
in the world was
I
12.
think they're still sending 5 words a minute on 6 WI and at 3.7 megs. But it's a very slow process. 5 words a minute is a cruel thing to listen to. And it's like, I was 2 fellas that always worked down the bottom end of 40 metres. And I listened to them time and time again. And I thought, what the hell are they doing? And there was only those 2 of them, and they only talked to each other. And I think the reason they only talked to each other is one taught the other one, number 1 taught number 2, and his code was so bad that the other bloke learned it, and he was the only one that could copy it. I've never heard anybody else working.
Do as I do.
If you learn junk Morse, you'll send junk Morse. So you come to listen to me on the air, and you'll get copybook CW.
When you started?
Soon.
Do promise me that you're only going to use 1 key at a time.
Yeah. Well, I could use 2 keys at a time.
I think
I could send half with this one and half with that one. I might do a prize to the person who can guess what sort of key it is. This is only a very small percentage of my key. I could cover 2 tables of the keys I've got.
You're going to do it on Simplex
Simplex, yeah.
from your place?
Yes.
Not everyone's going to get that.
Oh, I'm pretty well cover the whole area.
Which
If
area?
I use it, I'm not going to use the stupid repeater because it shuts down. Only got a couple of minutes.
Well, you can break it up in a couple of
A
minutes.
couple of minutes is enough for most of us.
What are you gonna be sending on 80 metres?
No. 2 meters.
On 2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What's our frequency? 14655, isn't it?
Yeah, you can use that. I'll give you
14655 simplex. And the reason I'm doing that is because you can sit it, like I said, you can sit in the bathtub with your handheld and carve the words on a bar of soap with your fingernail.
not with a spark transmitter.
I promise I won't use a spark transmitter. But you know, it's all magic stuff. And learn it properly. Just go steady, steady. Don't rush. No pressure.
But 15 words a minute.
Yeah. At the end of that time, my friend, I had an old timer. In fact, it was the same bloke that died and left me that key. 3AV. He was an aficionado. He was a mad Morse man. He called me up one night. He said, "How you going?" I said, "Oh," I said, what do I owe the pleasure?" He says, "I just rang up to thank you." I said, "What have I done?" He said, "Oh, there are lovely more sessions you're sending." So, you know, and then and I always used to use the same speed, but I used to use the Farnsworth method. Bigger gaps between words, bigger gaps between letters. So you've got time to think about them. When you stop thinking about them and get them down automatically, then you're in business.
Bruce, what do you receive it?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
What did you?
oh, what did I? I got to about 18 at one stage, but
Oh, yeah, I did my license at 14, but I'll be buggered.
I was lucky to get one or two at the moment.
It comes to that.
Is anyone proficient?
Yeah.
It used to be.
Depends on
Comes
your
by
definition of
95.
What about you, John? You okay?
I've been trying to learn Morse for 70 years.
That's good going.
There's
Really encouraging.
There are one or two programs on the net, if you dial up Morse code programs, and there's a couple that use the cock method, which I don't like, because what they do, if you have a look at one of my Bibles in there, you'll see that that's the method that Margaret Mills used to use, and that was they send you 2 letters, and they repeat them, they drum them into you. This is how the services did it. They knock the crap out of you, get them into you, you get 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. By the time they've finished, you go like this, and you've got 2 letters locked in your brain. Never forget them. Then they put another 2 in. And then they put another 2 in. And by the time you finish, you're really off the planet. So, but I find that was very difficult. The other one, the Farnsworth method, is you're learning everything. And I'll send you straight text, and some of the text I send will be off the planet, I can tell you.
So is the Farnsworth on the net as well? Does someone have the Farnsworth on the net somewhere?
Yes, there'll be methods like that. You'll see it, and you can adjust it. You call it up and you say, right, and they'll say, what sort of speed do you want? You want so. What sort of spacing do you want? You want such spacing. Do you want noise in the background so that it simulates what's going on the air and stuff? You can change the conditions like that, and you can learn that way. But you're going to be set with what they're going to send you. It's not going to be different. It'll be the same text all the time. And that's okay. It's okay. And sometimes you learn better by going over stuff twice.
I also got to add, and Mark, you might come in a little bit into, what we're talking about for a slow CW contest is, it's not going to be 15 words a minute, gentlemen.
Whatever you can understand.
Well, you've only got a few days. You're not going to learn it in a few days.
That's exactly right. Mark, we're not aiming for 15 words a minute. And when we do this, so don't get scared off, gentlemen. And I know it's quite daunting the first time you try Morse, but we're amongst friends, and it's a bit of a hit and giggle, and it's going to be slow. And if you only get 1 QSO each out of it, for the night, we've achieved the aim. We've all, got on there and done a bit of CW. That's what this is about, and we will get better. So,
well, you have to think about, you have to.
Is that right, Mark?
You have to call, and it's the same process as you do when you call CQ. You call ZL 3DQ, this is VK6DQ, and you don't say that, you say ZL 3DQ DE, which is French for this is me, and then you put your own call sign in. Then you sign off this procedure signals. I send them all to everyone in the club. Those procedure signals are the most commonly used, and get to know them because they're handy, and they are so when you sign off. It's automatic.
Sounds good.
It's quick.
Yeah.
And commence transmission.
CT.
Yeah.
No, it's run together. Commence transmission.
That sheet that you sent around,
Eh?
a sheet that you sent around today, the invitation to transmit looks very, very similar to K.
Does it?
It is. Oh, how about that?
And when you finish, if you're working someone and you don't want to talk to anybody else, you sign KN, which means that person only. No,
That one wasn't on the sheet.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes, it is. You didn't read it right.
What sheet is that?
It should be on there. I sent
When
it
did you send that today?
Yeah.
last night. It was.
Oh, I think I read it.
You would have got it
today.
today.
Yeah. Yeah, I printed it out.
Should have got it, shouldn't I?
Should have.
I got one.
So you.
Oh, yeah, so I did.
But you do have to learn the letters of the alphabet and the numbers, or you can start to pull them out of your head. I started back in the 1980s with a tape that somebody gave me, and they gave each letter of the alphabet 10 times, and the numbers. So everywhere I went in the car, I put the cassette in, and it would go A, did-ah,
Yeah, right.
A, did-ah, A, did-ah. Wherever I went, I was learning the characters and driving myself back.
I think the most important one there is all dots, it's error.
Yeah, right.
What
There'll be a lot of them, I think.
what you got to do is you drive around and you look at all the street signs. And you say, see up there, it says da 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 date. And you just, everything you see, read it in CW. Read it in CW. Read it in CW.
The
old used to do that.
Eh?
Called did-ah.
You do it?
Yeah.